Hello and welcome to another episode of Life Stories Markham. Life Stories is devoted to providing our audience, you, with a deeper understanding of the individuals behind the public personas. I'm your co-host, Michael Heap.
And I am Nilesh Hathi.
My other co-host.
Co-host. Are joining us today are two community-minded, mentoring business people in our community of Markham. Rob Kadlovski and Wendy Kadlovski. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's great to have you guys.
Thanks so much.
So let's start with a little personal question in terms of how you guys met originally. Wendy, I'm going to ask you the question of where did you and Rob originally meet?
Well, I was a landlord in a facility on the 401 for Shell, and there was a Nickleby's store in that facility. Mm-hmm. And that particular tenant caused me a lot of grief. He called me every day with one sort of issue or another.
Okay.
Affection.
Well, the floors are dirty, the windows need cleaning, the light bulbs need changing, that sort of thing.
It's funny because
landlord things.
Lucy and I met the same way. We worked together, and she was the production manager. I was the director, so I would call her, hey, we need this, we need this. Exactly what happened. Way to go, Rob.
So is that the truth, Rob? You were sort of creating or embellishing some of the issues happening?
Well, perhaps.
Perhaps. Listen, there was Tim Hortons, Mr. Sub, and Wendy's, and I didn't hear from any of those managers. I heard from Rob every day.
Okay. Kept you on your toes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. And Rob, switching a little bit to, or keeping in the business frame of mind, when did you originally get involved in the convenience store business?
I started, my first store was 1980. It was a sale. A company was selling, a company acquired a whole bunch of stores because one of its clients, a retailer, went bankrupt. Mm-hmm. And they ended up owning these stores with their inventory. And then they looked, because they weren't in that business, to divest of these stores. And I bought the Holiday Inn in Oshawa for $5,000, and I had to borrow $6,000 because I was $1,000 in debt.
Right.
And that's where the humble began.
Okay, so let's take you back even further, maybe, to the genesis of convenience stores, variety stores.
Oh, yeah.
Bit of a family connection there originally when you were a child?
Yeah, my mom and dad, my dad worked for a company, and after many years, he left that company and didn't know what he was going to do next. So he went out to market and ended up buying, back then we called them variety stores. Yeah. A little bit different than what we have today, a lot more in kind of the health and beauty drugstore line without prescriptions. Right. That's really what he opened in those days. And so that's where I first worked in that kind of environment. Yeah.
And where was his first store?
His first store was at Lawrence and Yonge, just north of Lawrence on the west side. And I remember it vividly. That store was run by a company called Tamblyn. And I don't know if you recall Tamblyn Drugs out of the UK. Okay. They had a chain of stores called Owl. And that was their kind of convenience, drug without drugs kind of store. And they were divesting of these stores. And so Dad bought one. And it used to be a 7-day operation, long hours, doing, $1,000 a week. And Dad shut it down, reopened it to a 5.5-day business, doing $5,000 to $10,000 a week.
Wow.
And so...
Now, my father owned a variety store as well in Uganda, where we grew up, and here when he came to Canada for a little while, it was a 24/7 business. So what made you think, I'd like to do this 24/7?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
Mom and Dad, I was in high school when this happened. And so, in my world, I had an opportunity to work in those stores when they were on holiday or on the weekends when they needed help. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I got involved. And I really took a liking to that whole business. And my first job, you should know, and I wasn't in love with it, was to break boxes and take out the garbage. That's where I started. Right. But I really took a liking to that business over time.
So this is 14 to 17, getting into the business.
Exactly right. Exactly.
Wendy, what were you doing at 14 to 17?
Well, at 14, I was a mother's helper, babysitter, of course. And by the time I was old enough to work, I actually worked in a Shell gas station as a cashier.
Oh.
But at that time, gas bars were only open from till 7 o'clock at night.
Right.
Right. So I didn't have to work all night, and it was great because I could go. My shift was 4 till 7, so right after school I could go and work my 4 to 7, get my 3 hours, and
Better than babysitting?
better, more lucrative than babysitting for sure. And a few years later, many years later, I ended up working for Shell too. So and that did help. Believe it or not, that did help because I remember when I was talking to the recruiter at Western, he was like, "Oh, you worked for Shell?" And I'm like, "Yeah, for 4 years. I did it like all through high school." Right? He's like, "Oh, that's good."
Was this out in Calgary, Wendy, that you worked for Shell? Or
No, I worked here.
in Toronto.
Yeah,
Okay.
but you're right. In '84, Shell moved most of its operations out west, but they still had sales and marketing here. So
You took marketing in university?
I took economics.
Economics. Ooh. And you, Rob?
I was going to be a lawyer until I decided, yeah, that was my dad's biggest disappointment.
Not that you went into his business, but that you weren't a lawyer.
Yeah, I wasn't a lawyer. Yeah. So, I went to U of T. And, but I never did do my law degree and ended up going to business. I actually, coming out of university, my first thing I did was get into real estate. And I became, at that time, I think the youngest real estate broker in Ontario.
Wow.
At a very young age, yeah. And back then, when you became a real estate broker, you were also a mortgage and insurance broker.
Right.
And so back in the day, and that's where I kind of cut my teeth.
And back in the day, in real estate, there was no computers. It was handwritten. You're looking at, you're driving around, looking at the sites and all that, right? It was not an easy
and
thing.
You had to go through the book because my dad was in real estate too. There was a book, and my job used to be to go through and take out the solds and put in the new ones.
Lucy's wife, mom, was a real estate agent as well in Ottawa.
Yeah.
And same thing. She's like, her job was let's go through the filing of it, right?
It's painful.
It's very painful.
Yeah.
So.
See how
Now we
good
have the
computers
internet.
are.
But it's a customer service business, just like retail.
That's
Right?
exactly correct.
Yeah, it's very customer oriented and
Yeah.
And 24/7.
24/7.
Much.
Oh yeah. Phone calls all the time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. 6
So
o'clock
would you
Sunday
say,
night.
Rob, dealing with people back even when you were in your dad's store, you must have had to deal with the people at certain times?
Absolutely, especially when I worked the
That must
cash.
have been a great learning experience that you brought along with you along your career.
Absolutely. I mean, the way to learn is not in the ivory tower, but at the grassroots level. And the grassroots is working in this store, understanding, the process, the product coming in. What do you do with it? How do you put it on the shelf? How do you face it out? How much space do you give? All of the cleaning the shelves, stocking the shelves, serving the customer. All of these things are basics. It's no different than a hockey player. The great hockey players, the Gretzkys of the world, their last practice, I always say, still practice the main thing: skating, passing, shooting. Right. Well, it's no different when you translate that to retail.
It's funny. It's the same as you, right? The shell. When you're successful in any business, you need to learn the whole process, right? Otherwise,
absolutely.
Right.
Right.
I know, like for example, I work for Canada AM. We had Tina Turner come in one time.
Wow.
Done a million shows, right? Tina Turner, but she was performing at 8:30. She comes at 5:30 and rehearses. Like a song that she's done a billion times before, but she's still, that's the key, right? As you say, that's the key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And never take anything for granted, right?
Right.
Right.
So, Nilesh, your parents came from Uganda, opened a store. And Rob, I believe your parents were immigrants from Poland?
Poland, yeah. Originally both parents were born in Poland and escaped the Nazis and ended up in Russia and Russia to Israel.
Okay.
And from Israel to Canada.
Wow.
So that was kind of...
So the experiences they went through.
Oh my!
Did they talk about it much, Rob? Or?
My dad was interviewed by Spielberg's people at one point. I have a tape. Wow. I've never watched it.
Okay.
Not yet. But yeah.
So there might be things on the tape that you're not aware of.
I probably, and I'm not sure I'm quite ready yet.
Sure.
And Dad passed away about 12 years ago, so
Okay.
I still have had a hard time. So
It's difficult. For
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you were born in Israel?
I was born in Israel.
Yeah. And you came when you were how old?
8 and a half.
8 and a half.
Yeah.
And do you remember Is there?
Oh, absolutely. I remember it vividly. I remember even the boat that we came on.
Really?
And ended up in Halifax. Oh, very much so.
Wow.
I remember that whole journey.
Yeah.
It had an impression on me. And I've got to tell you, the first buck I ever made, it was at the Halifax, when we landed with the boat, because I'd never seen a payphone before. And so I went to the payphone and I pushed the buttons and money came out. And some money must have been jammed. And
You said, I like this country.
yeah,
Welcome to Canada. Here's your
welcome to Canada.
What was
That
it,
my
a dime?
first true. No, it was a whole bunch of nickel, whatever it was, but
Fine.
a whole bunch of coins.
They go ding 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 ding.
It was like a lottery, But anyway, but that was.
was a
I
slot
still
machine.
remember that.
Really, what
because
an interesting
very much
observation.
remember that. And then I remember taking the train from Halifax to Union Station. It was middle of winter, but back in the old country, I was in shorts. I didn't even own a long pair of pants.
Right.
So we ended up at Union Station. We came outside looking at the Royal York Hotel with snowbanks that looked like they were 20 feet tall, and I'm wearing shorts. And that was the welcome to Canada. So
It's funny, we came in 1972 and Idi Amin kicked everybody out. So we came end of October.
sure.
Same thing in shorts.
Still cold.
And we came in shorts because
Yeah.
And then we'd never seen snow before. Oh my God, what is this white
Exactly.
stuff?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was my impression.
Well, I'll top you guys because our family came from England when I was 14, 1975. We came in September because we did some planning to make sure the weather was going to be okay. No, I'm kidding. We just got lucky, I think.
You're British. You're always thinking ahead.
It's about the same over here as it was in England at that time of year.
That's fun.
So, Wendy, going back to your experience in the oil industry for Shell,
Yeah.
I believe at that time, the industry you were in, that field, was pretty male dominated.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
So it must have been quite a challenge in some ways for you at that time.
Yeah, it was. Shell was very progressive and was very good that way. We had diversity courses back, like today it's a thing, but back in the 80s it was not a thing.
That's unusual.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I said, you have to go to a diversity course. I'm like, what's diversity?
Diversity, what?
Yeah. And so, so I personally have no real complaints. I was telling Lucy though, one day we were in Calgary and there was a club in Calgary, the Petroleum Club, which was only for men. And of course, I was working in a sales team that was all men except for me.
Okay.
And so they were quite used to going to the Petroleum Club.
Right.
And I was like, well, what are we going to do with her? Well, her.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Her. Yeah.
Wow.
So, but luckily I had a boss who was like, we're not going to the Petroleum Club anymore.
Okay,
So
very
that was
good.
the end of that, yes.
Yeah.
They probably didn't have a washroom for you either.
But, his wife also worked for Shell and she was an engineer,
Okay.
which is even more challenging.
Yes,
Very,
right.
very challenging. And so I think he was well trained on.
Did you also spend some time in trucking as well?
I did. That was very interesting.
Oh, right.
Very interesting. Yeah, because, there were no female reps selling diesel to truckers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would go in and call on these guys, and they're like, who are you?
Right.
I'm Wendy, I'm from Shell. No, you can't be from Shell because my guy's, Elish, he came last week. No.
Right.
I'm like, no, it's me now. And they're like, no, you're not the gas girl.
The gas girl.
That's what they call
Did you
me.
ever get tattoos?
No, no, it was very interesting. It was interesting.
Right.
But, they got used to me.
Sure.
But I remember when my one client say, well, I'll buy diesel from you, but I'm not buying industrial lubricants from you.
Okay.
Because what do you know about, what I need to put on my fifth wheel? And I'm like, well, I've been trained, but okay. Whatever.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's difficult. That's a large, right? Difficult time. That's difficult when people don't trust you or think you have just your gender or skin color or whatever it is.
Yeah, and I think it takes a lot of patience. You just have to sort of sit back and go, okay. And,
Right.
I took that same boss whose wife was an engineer. I took him once to see this gas girl guy, and this guy wouldn't even turn around. So we were sitting here, and he was facing the other way, and he wouldn't even turn around. And my boss was furious. He's like, "Let's go." I'm like, "No, Paul, just wait,
Sure.
just wait." He's like, "I'm not waiting." I'm like, "Yes, you are, because this is my account." And he eventually turned around, but
Well, that's the thing. These things will turn around, but you can't expect them to turn around overnight.
And he was just playing. He was just playing,
Yeah.
And so it's all good.
Yeah. Any stereotyping when you start business in the business world when you came? when you started?
Not in my world, and I've got to tell you, when Wendy and I met, and she told me about her challenges, being a woman in a male-dominant industry, I couldn't relate. Because in my life, my mother is a very strong figure, and still to this day, and so that I've always had this great respect for women, and I always felt women, and guys are going to hate me for this, probably do a lot better things in a lot of different areas, and so I couldn't. I used to tell Wendy, like, I don't get that. I don't understand that. So,
Right.
but it's the way I was raised, I suppose.
Yeah.
So.
And do you, in your current business, do you obviously foster that?
It's female dominated in my office,
Right.
you should know, and most of the
Michael
executive
can attest
people,
to that.
That's true.
most
It's
of the
all women.
executives and people at the higher level of the organization are primarily women.
Yeah.
And a pleasure to work with. That's not a shot at men. We have men working in our organization, but the beauty of these women is many of them who started with me at a very young age continue to be in the organization. So the average tenure of one of our team members is 20 plus years.
Yeah, that's
And
amazing.
So,
That's a testament to your leadership.
and a testament to them being able to manage me, It's kind of like.
That's why I have Wendy.
So,
to manage you.
but I think the world has changed certainly,
For
and we see it not only in our organization, but major manufacturers today. Many are represented by women, and great leadership. So I think the world has changed.
It's changed a lot.
Now, when you started the Nickleby's chain of retail stores, was there a certain philosophy that you tried to instill in that? Because it became successful.
Yeah, so I started, the first store was the Holiday Inn in Oshawa that I alluded to earlier, and I really wanted to learn from others. So there was one other company that was very large, and I started in the hotel gift shop business, and that was in that time a company owned by a Masco called United Cigar Stores, and I really used to shop their stores and see what they do, and I learned what to do and what not to do, and kind of I didn't go to business school. I developed all this through kind of knowledge and experience that I had through that, and and I was very lucky too that I had some really good team members that were mentors to me.
Sure.
I've learned a lot from as well. So it's not only me mentoring, but I've been mentored over the years as well. So.
And how important is mentoring?
Well, I think it's everything. I think coaching, mentoring, helps people grow. I mean, that's the key. If they don't have the knowledge and you don't share your knowledge and experience with them, and what they do with that knowledge, they don't have to follow your path, but at least they get a different perspective.
Right.
And so I share the perspectives and share what I believe to be true and how to run a business, and hopefully that helps them.
And Wendy, do you have mentors?
Do I have mentors?
Yes.
Yeah, I think absolutely. Shell was very good about that. As you come in as a new grad, they would really try and have new grad sessions where we could meet different people and really, have someone to help us through. Because it is a little, when you come right out of school, you know nothing, right?
Sure.
You really know nothing,
Yeah.
especially in a big organization. So it certainly does help. And then over time, you develop that.
And now you're working together, of course, and have been for a number of years, and you're the director of operations.
Yes.
So in your current role then, are there certain areas that you go to for mentorship information or support?
Right, so we have a pretty strong industry. So I've sat on the board of the Ontario Convenience Store Association for a number of years, quite a number of years. And so it's an interesting board because of course we're all competitors, but we come together for the greater good of the industry. And so it's good to have those discussions and say, well, we're having trouble with contraband tobacco. It's like, well, we're all having trouble with that. So, we'd all like to have beer and wine in convenience stores as an example. So those are things that we come together to try and work on. And it's always good to have a meeting of the minds.
And how has the operation changed in a convenience store industry over 2 decades, 3 decades, how long you've been doing it? 2 decades.
Oh my
I won't say
goodness.
5 decades, but 2 decades.
Yeah, no, I think especially in the model that Rob created when he started, he was very much in the hotel gift shop business, and it was much more, not even so much about confectionery and things like that. It was more about gifts and souvenirs, right? And then it's really morphed over time to be much more of a convenience. Today, it's very much a convenience operation. And convenience is changing too, right? There's lots of channel blurring between the shoppers and the Dollaramas and the convenience stores of the world. So, yeah, it's
And
kind of a
we
movement.
like to think that we're more healthy conscious now, and yet when we walk into a convenience store, what's the first thing we see is
Chocolate
6, 8,
bars.
10 foot of chocolate bars, and that still sells, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, the government one time, they had this health initiative, this low sugar initiative, right? It's like, we're going to move the chocolate bars. They have to be 12 feet from the cash. It's like, you can't put them 12.
Really?
You can't put them 12 feet from the cash. They're going to be out in the parking lot. Like, you know, they had no idea, right? Just
Most stores are barely 12 feet.
That's right.
Yeah.
There's no room to move it 12 feet. And so these are the kind of things we would work on. But, you know, I always say the hips and the lips don't necessarily what people say and what they actually do.
The hips and the lips.
Right? They want what they
speak
say
for
they want to do, or
Right.
they want to be healthy. But when it really comes down to it, we all like a chocolate
So
bar.
chocolate bar was the biggest seller back then. Chocolate bar is still the biggest seller now. Or has that changed? No.
I would say tobacco
Tobacco?
is the biggest, was the biggest
It's
seller.
huge.
It used to be
Yeah.
Cigarettes, tobacco,
70% of the
cigars.
business at one point.
Oh, yes.
Not so much in our world, but certainly in the gas stations.
Yeah.
70%,
Oh,
In
yeah.
gas stations, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the
Even in
brand.
Uganda, when we had the store, my father had the distribution rights for 200 miles for cigarettes and alcohol. That was it.
That was
You
it.
didn't have to sell anything else, really,
Right.
right?
The rest of it's just kind of like
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly. Just for people to come in.
Yeah.
To
You
buy.
want a bag of chips to go with your.
That's
That's
right,
changed
exactly.
dramatically
Yeah.
nowadays, for sure.
Well, that makes it more challenging, right? You don't have one. Clear.
I'm sorry?
Makes it more challenging.
Well, today we've just shifted. I mean, we've kind of pivoted from the reliance on cigarette, tobacco, and lottery, and try to find other categories of opportunities. And so you're seeing a lot more today in convenience store. Food service has sprung up in a very big way. A model that's been in the U.S. with some of the brands for decades has now kind of taken hold here in Canada, and so you're going to see a lot more food service operations. We've even done one. We've created a model for that, and so we're changing what a convenience store is today. During COVID, a prime example is a lot of people did not want to go to the supermarkets. There were too many people. They were frightened, so they wanted to grab something and go. Well, we became kind of a mini supermarket in some areas because they could grab it and just leave. And so our world is continually shifting.
Coffee, high margin.
Coffee, huge. I mean, it's one just needs to look at other brand where you've got some of the major coffee operations within the store, and we do that as well.
Yeah.
So, it is a changing environment. Certainly not what it was. I mean, and
Okay,
it
so
continues.
the question I have, and you may or may not answer, lottery. Lottery ticket sales. Is that a percentage, or do you get a percentage of the winnings, or I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah, so from a lottery perspective, the margins are low,
Right.
And it is on a percentage basis. The winnings, even if you've got the biggest winner, it's very minimal.
Okay.
And Wendy, maybe you can speak to what that is. I think it's hundreds of dollars as opposed to.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you sold $25,000 ticket. Here's your $250
Right.
commission.
We're like,
Right.
yeah,
It's really,
minimal.
it's just a pure traffic driver.
Right.
Right.
Because I'm just curious, because sometimes I have 15 tickets, right? And I could take 15 tickets. Is this going to be a problem for, like, are the owners like, okay, come in or don't come in, or?
Well, the problem is manpower, right?
Right.
Because it takes time to do all
Sure,
that sort of
right.
thing. So it's really all about, and we always say that to the lottery.
In order to make a
commission.
buck at it, you got to sell a lot of tickets.
Right. Okay.
A lot of
That's
tickets.
just a small question I had, but give me
Yeah,
some.
no, it's a good
Sure.
one, and they're
It's a good
coming
one.
out with self-serve terminals now too. They're
Oh.
testing those.
For lottery tickets?
Yeah.
Really? Wow.
So that'll be interesting because it's going to be like kind of like a bank machine, right?
Right.
Put it in the corner, you feed your
Right.
tickets in. I'll be very interested to see how engaging the public is with that.
But the lottery is a traffic builder,
Yeah.
and that's the key. If you
Sure.
can get feet into the store, then you have an opportunity to sell them other things.
Yeah.
If you relied strictly on lottery,
Yeah.
boy, oh boy.
Well, it's interesting because when I filled gas at the Shell station here, and everybody's filling up at the pump and stuff, and your margin is inside the store, right? And nobody's going in.
Right.
Like even now, I go to Shell and go pump number 4, Mike does everything, but people are going to the store for that impulse buy. So I'm not sure why owners allow that, I guess.
So that was a big deal when I was around when they put pay
Yeah.
at the pump in, and the operators were always like, "Are you kidding? You're going to kill our business." And of course, we had studies that showed, that really people went in the store to buy cigarettes mostly, and lottery, and said if you could get the people out of line that were just paying for fuel and not buying anything else, then the people that were going in to buy the ancillary products would buy more because they didn't have to wait as long. And so, but that was a hard sell.
Yeah,
Right.
and I imagine that's changed now without the cigarettes, without the.
Yeah, cigarettes are not a high volume as well
Yeah.
in terms of margin. You don't make lots of money on that, and the price of them, there's high risk of theft
for
too,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, I have to ask you something that's close to my heart. You guys took a chance a number of years ago. You created a new business on the main street of Unionville called the Old Fire Hall Confectionery, which I think was hugely successful and different and innovative. How did that come about?
Well, we were renting our head office space prior to that in Toronto, and I wanted to move to Unionville, and that's when Wendy and I got together as husband and wife, and really we wanted to relocate our offices to close to home.
Yeah.
And I thought, if we could rent something on Main Street, Unionville, we could walk home. I mean, it was that close. And so we looked around. And we just couldn't find anything for rent. And one day we were walking up the street and we met a lady from a store who knew Wendy because Wendy had bought something there. And I asked her the question, "Do you know anything for rent?" She said, "No." "Anything for sale?" "Well, yeah, I just heard today the old fire hall's for sale." Yeah.
Exciting.
So Wendy and I ran down looking for a for sale sign, and there's no for sale sign. This is on the weekend. This is on a Saturday. I remember this. And I called my agent. I had an agent. I called, and he said, "Rob, I'm at a party. It's Saturday night." And he did.
It's a 24/7 business.
Yeah. By Sunday night, we owned the building.
Wow.
And we'd never seen the upstairs. Wow. And the reason was that we knew that, we assumed that the upstairs was almost equal to the downstairs in terms of space. But we were going to use that space on the main floor before the old fire hall concept was ever developed as a test and train store for Nickelby's. We would bring in franchisee and use that facility to test product and to train the franchisees. And then our offices would be upstairs. But as time went on, Wendy and I kind of looked at this opportunity and said, do we really, and we had a son, Wendy's son, who was going to school behind the building as well. Do we really want to live in the community and have our kids and selling cigarettes and lottery on
Because we sell all the sins, right?
Yeah.
Really.
Right.
So that's kind of the way we looked at it. We said, what if we created something unique? And originally it was going to be, so what if we did a general store? And so we tried to find what the heck a general store means.
Right.
Trying to find that.
It's hard to find. So we traveled southern Ontario, and we ended up one day with friends of ours in Niagara Falls on Clifton Hill. And I walked in this store that was making fudge. And the minute I saw the fixtures, especially this rounded fixture, I asked Wendy and our friends to wait right there, and I went across the street, and I called the guy who I knew worked in there.
Oh.
That used to be one of my vice presidents at one point.
Okay.
And I asked him to, I said, I love what I'm seeing here. I want you to come in. I have an idea. And we negotiated his pay over the cell phone. I remember that.
Standing on Clifton Hill.
Next day he came into Toronto. And I said, what I saw is what I want to do. And I took him to the building, and we actually, so that's what we ended up doing. We built a kitchen in our old office building to do all the formulation and all the
Testing.
recipes and testing and training and before we ever opened on Main Street.
It's interesting because that's the same thing you happen in the United Cigar Store, right? You learn and you watch and that's what the concept of it, and you took with that.
Yeah, and you kind of create your own spin on what that looks like. And I love the idea because it was a happy thing to do. It was good for community. It kind of, that's how we got there. Yeah. It's like we don't want to do what we normally do for a living. Let's do something a little bit more
It
community.
was so community focused. It's
Yeah,
unbelievable.
very much so.
You even hired young people from the community,
Well, yeah, and
such as my daughter.
that's right. That's right. And I'll tell you something. One of the most rewarding things that I still will always remember is that every year we would put an ad in the local paper that showed, we called it the graduating class of that
Right, I
year.
remember that, yeah.
And we showed every young team member that was actually moving on to university. And we had their picture there and a comment, a little blurb from each
Right.
one of them. They could say whatever they want. Okay. And, you know, we may have had to censor one or two, but, but generally,
think so.
everything,
Right.
no, we didn't. And we would run that. And the beauty of that was that every parent, family, and friends that we would come across that said, by the way, my niece was in thank you so much. That was so
Yeah.
rewarding, so amazing.
Right.
And that kind of speaks to community. And to me, it was a gesture of love for us because, you know, these young people did an amazing job and we were happy to see them move on. And so we celebrated them, and that celebration celebrated the community because those kids are part of the fabric of that community, right?
Now, are you an impulse person? Because it seems to me you do a lot of business decisions on impulse. Would that be a good?
I think the thing works quickly. So, you know what? I'm a very, I would say, aggressive conservative. And what that means is that when I think there's something to be done, I do it. But I'm also a thinker. I walk through a process of risk, reward. I do
But
all
then you're
that.
decisive at that point. Once you
Once
make that
I'm
decision,
committed, it's done. It's done.
And Wendy, are you like that?
No.
No.
Not so, to some extent,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. But not quite as, not quite.
Yeah, it's like I process things fairly quickly in my brain and then just move on as well.
Yeah.
And it's good because I think it gives you an opportunity to just go forward instead of always looking back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want to get stuck.
That's right.
Yes, that's true. That is
Yeah.
true.
I mean, that's your part of your business, forward thinking always, right?
Always.
Forward thinking, creating, the thing that, at this stage of our career, I think just create something that isn't there already.
Yeah.
right.
And come up with concept. And the beautiful part being who we are is we see it come to fruition.
Yeah.
So it's not like working in a big corporation that your idea could take years to get to the other end. We decide today, tomorrow we can see some results.
Right.
In many
Right.
cases.
Is that what you like from going from a big corporation like Shell to, or is that what drew you, or did
Yeah,
Rob
for sure.
draw you, or?
For sure, the idea of, when you work in a big organization, there's a couple things. One is you work like 2 years in a job and then you move, right? So it's very difficult to do a big project,
Right.
really, because it's not going to come to fruition in that
Right.
period of time. And also the idea about having control and saying, we're going to do this, the old fire hall project, for example. From soup to nuts, we're going to do it and implement it and see it happen. And that
Right.
you don't, because Shell a lot of times would change their mind.
You're not doing the piece of it and handing it off to somebody else. You're actually part of the whole project.
Right. And it didn't get canceled halfway through, because that happens too, right?
For sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
actually a
all the
good
time.
story to kind of illustrate that. Years and years ago, after that highway site, there was a group of people that came in from a company that were looking to grow the 400 series highways with stores. And I ended up speaking with them, and they had a little bit of cold feet, and so I went to them and said, I'll tell you what, we'll open up the first store. It happened to be King City on the 400.
Right. Right.
And I said, I'll build it out. And it was very costly. It was about $200,000. As long as you tell me some benchmarks, where you are today in sales, and what the benchmark is that we need to achieve in 6 months. And if we achieve it, we get a long-term lease. We don't achieve it, you get to keep my $200,000 investment. And I remember Wendy saying to me, we could never, ever do that in a large corporation.
No.
No
That's right,
way.
for sure.
No way.
No way. Business cases and sign-offs and authorities and
Yeah, yeah.
it would never happen.
And we got approval in 3 months to move forward. And we got all the 400 series locations
Right.
because we were able to achieve that, and I felt we could, and that's why I took
Right.
that gamble. So to some would be a gamble,
Yeah.
but it was I
It's the
did the math.
speedboat. It's the speedboat versus the ocean
Ocean
liner.
liner, exactly.
You know,
Right,
we're an
exactly.
aircraft. We were an aircraft carrier. Like we move.
So what advice do you have for young entrepreneurs? A lot of people, entrepreneurs, that's sort of the flow nowadays, I think. A lot of people, right, for whatever it is, social media, YouTube, whatever it is, people want to be entrepreneurs. What advice do you have for young entrepreneurs?
Well, I think first of all, you need to understand what that is. I mean, I think an entrepreneur doesn't go into business with the end goal, I'm going to make money. I think an entrepreneur has to go in with an idea and pay the price, the passion, the commitment, the hard work, the challenges, and I mean, it doesn't come easy. 44-hour week for me was never 44 hours. And so if you're willing to pay the price and not just think somehow about money, I want to get rich is not the answer. Do everything right and really give your blood, soul to the business. The money comes as a
And
byproduct.
don't give up.
And don't give up. Oh gosh,
There's many hurdles.
well, in
along the way.
43 years, I can tell you, I mean, especially early on in the business, there were times I couldn't meet payroll. That's a fact.
Right.
I'm not the only one. And there were times there were, cash flow issues and all kinds of challenges, no doubt. But you have to fight through all of that. And it just makes you stronger and brighter. And so if you've got the gut to do that and you're willing to pay the price, you can be successful. It depends how you want to measure success,
Yeah,
but you
right.
can be successful.
And how important is giving back as a young business?
Oh, wow.
Wendy?
So I think that we both feel that it's really important to give back, through our community service, through our industry associations, etc. I think that's important because it's for the good of everybody, right? The good of the industry, the good of the community, whatever the case may
And
be.
has that in the end helped the business?
I don't know that we measure it that way
No?
anymore, to be
Okay.
honest. I don't think so. I think we get to a point where helping others, mentoring others, doing good for others,
Right.
it's selfish because it feels good to us.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so it's not a reward of dollars. It's a reward of who you are as a human being. So it's an easy thing to do.
I think the interesting thing is we've interviewed several people on Life Stories, and many of them, successful in their careers, in their life, are also volunteers on boards, on business associations, giving their time and effort, and getting it back and just seeing other people benefit and foster. I think it's an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely, both Wendy and I have probably sat on 10 boards. I have a long history of boards. I started with the Entertainment District, the Walk of Fame, one of the original 6 board members on that.
Who was the first person you approved?
First person,
It's a test.
On the Walk of Fame.
what is it? On Walk of,
On the Walk of Fame.
I'm trying to remember who was it, actually.
Don't look at me.
But I'll tell you who was on the board was Billy Ballard, Harold Ballard's son. Our honorary chair was Ed Mervish.
Yes, yeah.
Oh,
So yeah, I go back to
And the
that.
answer is, do you know the answer?
I don't know the
Oh,
answer.
I thought you did know the answer.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
anyway, that's where I started. And then the Young Street Association,
Yeah.
Central County Tourism, BIA. I was chair of,
You can go BIA.
I was
Right.
chair for the government at Central Counties and tourism, and I still sit on boards or committees. And Wendy's heavily involved. Maybe you want to speak to the boards you sit on, and it's.
Yeah, so, I'm on the museum board right now. I'm the chair
The
of
Markham Museum.
Markham Museum.
Okay.
And I have been on the Jazz Festival, and I was, like I said, really involved for like 20 years on the industry piece. And I think the industry boards are important because potentially it can benefit all, right?
Yeah.
All ships
Sure.
rise with the tide. If you can get something like beer and wine in convenience stores, then that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Although maybe not so much for us, but anyway,
Yeah.
you know.
But now you teach, right? You
I do, yeah. I teach at Seneca.
And what do you teach?
So I teach business, I teach procurement and service leadership and operations and economics.
Oh, and you enjoy that, I presume.
I do,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's
Is
very
that in the
interesting.
evenings or during the day? How
It's
does
during the day.
it-
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
That's so nice.
yeah. So a little bit different.
Yeah, for sure. That's a way of giving back as well, right? To young people.
You know, it's
Yeah.
fascinating, especially because so many are new immigrants.
Right.
Like I'm fascinated. The college is just full of new immigrants,
Yeah.
and they're so like kind of culture shock, right? And they're
Absolutely.
trying to figure it all out. So we have some good discussions about how
We've
it
actually
is.
hired one of your students.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, really?
We did. Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
I remember a few years ago I was in a Best Buy store in Markville Mall. I was getting a new cell phone, and the young gentleman across from me who was serving me It was really helpful and personable. And we started talking. And he said, oh, yeah, and I recently took a project management course and said, you know what, I'm actually looking for some project management in my company. Anyway, a few weeks later, I hired him to work for the company, and he's still with me. Yeah.
Wow.
It's just one of those things where you see people and you want to help them and give back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard for them too because they have no Canadian experience. This is what we have the discussion all the time. And what am I going to do? I don't have any Canadian experience. How am I going to? And I always tell them, I said, just get out there. Just pick an industry, pick a big company that you're interested in, and then just take anything. I don't care what. Like, you know, if you want to be in a hotel, work in the kitchen or work in the what's it called? You know, housekeeping area. Just anything.
Sure.
You're not going to be there forever. You just need to get in and show them what you can do.
And one of the important things I find is that I lost my train of thought. Sorry, go ahead. I lost my train of thought. It was very important. I forgot it.
About just getting in there and doing it, right?
Doing it, getting in there, doing it, and
because sitting at home, you're not going to get a job.
no.
You're not going to meet Michael.
Sorry. And talking to people.
Yeah.
Right. Talking to people and the communication skill that I think some people are that I think you need in school now. More communication skill. You talk to people. Here's what my interest is, and
There's I find there's a lot of young kids now who want to just jump right in to be the vice president. Or the manager.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's not how it works. And that's a real lesson they have to understand and live.
We have that discussion all the time. It's like, guys.
I have that discussion at home too.
I had it today. I interviewed a young man from Karachi, and who told me that his vision of Canada was that the roads are paved in gold, and that all you have to do is show up and get money. And he has learned in the 2 years, he came here as a student, that that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's actually come for a job, and he, because we were talking position, he met with 3 other members of our team, and he got to meet today, and it's interesting the perception and the reality.
Yeah.
And I told him, you know, he thought by now he should have a car. I said, you know, you have to work hard, and you have to be. It just doesn't come just because you show up.
Yeah.
Right.
It's opportunity. Like the gold is the opportunity, right? And I tell the students too, I said, you know, you guys just have to do a hurry up offense because look at me. I started working in a gas station, you know, and over the years you get all this experience. You need to get all that experience in a much shorter time frame, of course, but you need to progress. You're not going to be president tomorrow. Sorry.
Right.
Look, it's work ethic, right?
Yeah.
It's work ethic. You got to put the time in, right? It's just nothing happens for free, right?
Yeah, and that's how you learn.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
You know?
And you don't really know you're learning sometimes, but you are. Then you look back a few years later and you realize that you have learned and gained experience.
Especially at the really detailed, granular level, right? Like, you know.
I mean, for me, I started volunteering at a cable station.
Right.
And that's how I have a computer science degree. But I was like, oh, I like TV. And I just started volunteering. You go with people, you chat, you learn from them, just soak it all in, and you just give them your time, right? And
Exactly.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, look where you end up.
Look at where I am now, doing podcasts and video casts with some amazing people.
In a different studio.
That's right.
Studio.
Still Studio 10.
There you go.
And
Studio
a little
10.
different technology.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Right?
It's a lot cheaper now.
Yes.
Right? A lot less expensive, a lot less, yeah, for sure. Is it time, Michael, or
I think it's time
it's time?
for
Rapid fire. Okay, I have the questions. Michael has the questions. We're not sure who's going to ask which ones, but I'll start. Here we go.
Go Start.
You guys love chocolate, right? I presume.
Yes.
Right.
So cake or pie?
Cake.
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 Oh, unanimous.
Wow, that was quick. Chocolate
Right.
cake, I presume.
Chocolate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What
Okay.
about a nice apple pie? No.
No.
I like apple pie, but I
like
take
apple
cake all
pie,
day long.
But
Okay.
chocolate. Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. My question is, curl up with a book or a dinner party, cocktail party? Which of those two, Rob?
Depending.
No.
All right. Here we
You're
go.
the quick decision maker.
You know, depending. It depends on the mood. If, you know, the mood is just to chill, reading a book.
It's been a tough week. You just want to sit there, maybe.
That's right. Most of the time, though, I'd like to party.
Yeah. There you go.
I would take cocktail party.
Cocktail party. There you go.
Technology. Both of you are technology. Apple iPhone or Android?
Android.
We have Androids.
Oh. Don't
Oh,
look at this.
I suspected iPhone there. Actually, I'm
did too.
surprised.
Well,
That's good.
the Android is a result of what we use in our business, and it really complemented what we do in the business,
Right.
and that's
Okay.
the reason. Yeah.
But there's things I would really like to be able to airdrop my files, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
You know, there's some things that would be nice.
Right. Okay. This is more maybe of a vacation kind of location situation. The Caribbean or Europe? Wendy.
Europe.
Caribbean.
Caribbean.
Ah.
You're a beach guy?
I'm a big beach guy.
Yeah? Sit around, do nothing?
Do
I find
not-
that surprising.
Well, no, absolutely. And in fact, I will share this. We took our team down to the Bahamas this past winter,
Nice.
just after Christmas, and we loved it. So a little bit of casino after that, a little bit of partying, and
Sure.
a little break of that
Bahamas.
everyday stuff. That's it.
Yeah. It's not like Mexico, you sit on a palapa.
That's right.
Okay.
So,
Okay. You're both athletic? You talk about football references, so
did I?
Wendy's a good ball
Yes.
player too.
Yeah.
No good adjective. I just play.
Play ball. Play ball. You're pretty good.
Okay, so ice skating or roller skating?
ice skating.
Ice skating.
Yeah, I like ice skating.
Ice skating?
Yeah.
No roller skating. No dates in roller skating or something. No rollerblading
Gosh,
dates.
do you remember?
Back in the day.
I used to roller skate down at the terrace.
Oh yeah.
What
Back
terrace?
on Terrace. It was called the Terrace
The
at
Terrace,
Dundas
yes.
and
That is-
Jarvis.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not that
We
place.
used to go to our little community center and have like Friday night roller, with the
Oh,
roller,
yeah.
not inline skates,
Yeah, the
like
four-
the
Four wheelers.
Wheels.
with
yeah.
the boot and the whole
Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have to add.
To
and
Saturday
you're talking
Night
about-
Live or Saturday night, 'cause
I have
Bay
to
City
add
Rollers.
about sports. So because this is about Markham, I actually play in the Unionville Men's Hockey League, and I
Okay.
should tell you that we won the championship this year. So
Yeah.
that's very important to me.
Wow. All right.
What position do you play?
I'm goalie.
A goalie. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that surprise you?
And what was your
Does
team
that
name?
surprise you?
Your sponsor?
Yes. No. Yes.
Unionville Arms was the
Unionville Arms.
sponsor,
Okay.
and I'm very happy to report I got MVP this year.
Hey, wow. All right, Rob.
Now that's very
Have
important.
you called Brendan Shanahan?
At least could use a goalie, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah. I'll because of my teammates. I had great teammates, so
Okay.
it makes a difference.
So,
Like a post-game interview. We got great teammates.
They are.
so some people were rollerblading for a date. If you think about a date, going on a date, would it be a movie date or a dinner date?
Dinner.
Dinner.
Oh, both dinner. A nice,
Wow. Good thing you're in sync there.
yeah, good food, nice wine, maybe.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
So you've both met a lot of people in your lives, in your business and your personal lives. What's the one person you have met you'd like to meet? Wendy, we'll start with you.
Oh.
Or who is the one person? Not one.
Living
Who
or
is the one
dead,
person?
perhaps?
I think I'd like to meet Michelle Obama.
Oh.
I read her book and I thought it was very interesting.
And what inspires you about her?
I think just the adversity and just her story was really interesting. Being in the path to the White House, but also being in the White House, and she was challenged to be like the first lady
Right.
because of what the perception was, versus what she really wanted to do.
Yeah. She wanted to be president.
Yeah, well, maybe not president,
know.
but she wanted to make a difference, right?
Yeah,
and
for
she
sure.
talks about doing the garden, right? She put a garden in the yard, and
Right.
the red tape and just the hands that she had to talk to. Like,
Right.
No, you don't do that. No. And so-
My cousin's daughter was a senior policy advisor at health for the Biden administration.
Oh wow.
And that's the same thing. She came from private to this, and she says, "Oh, it takes you have to move Mount Rushmore or something to get anything done, right?"
Yeah, and I can imagine that's very
Yeah,
frustrating.
that's right. I would think so.
You know.
Yeah.
So-
Okay, Rob. Who's yours?
I'd like to meet her husband,
Obama.
President
Yes,
Obama.
President
That would be
Obama.
a great
Dinner
thing.
date.
There we
You
go.
know what? That would be good. That would be
double
good
date,
because
yeah.
you
There we
know
go.
it's talk about someone that had to fight his way to where he got
Oh my
to,
gosh.
and
Right.
and I thought he was an outstanding president as well. And I think that it takes a team to do what they did. And I think between Michelle and himself,
Right.
I think they were a powerhouse. So I'd like to
Yeah.
meet the other half.
Do you think our producers can make that happen?
Well, if Michelle and Brock are out there watching right now,
That's right.
contact us and we'll put you in touch with
Listen,
Wendy and Rob.
we'd be happy to go to their new $12 million place at Martha's Vineyard.
We'll tag along too if you want.
I'm sure there's room.
Okay, let's go back a few years for the first concert that you ever attended. Probably a
Ever?
musical concert, yeah.
Oh my goodness, Max Webster came to our high school.
Max Webster, Kim Mitchell. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a little like this high school auditorium, right? I remember it was like, my ears were ringing for
The
days.
Three Stooges don't count, do they?
The concert?
Yeah. So let me think. So my first concert would have been that I can recall, is the O'Keefe Center, and it was Three Dog Night.
Three Dog Night. Yeah,
Dog
there's a
Night.
great band from the past.
And do you listen to music?
I'm a big music guy.
What genre?
Well, I love jazz, but I love soft rock. My music. I was in a band, so back in the '60s
strum
and
a bit, don't you?
'70s. I still do.
Yeah.
You're in a
little
band?
bit. I was. Yeah.
It was the band's name. This is now.
The Grapes of Wrath.
The Grapes
of Wrath.
You were the Grapes of Wrath?
Well, not the ones you know.
Okay, I was going to say.
yes, Grapes of Wrath, absolutely. And in fact, Wendy will allude. When I get together with some of my old buddies, still, that's what we do. We pick up instruments and we do.
some
You guys
jamming.
jam?
We've
You guys
never
jam?
jammed together, no.
No?
My guitar skills are just at the development stage.
Well, I played with great musicians. Some you would know if I mentioned them. I was never that great, and I still am not that great at it.
Right.
I'm just, I play. I'm a hacker. But some of the guys...
Play guitar? Is that what you
I play
said?
guitar, but some of the guys I played with are just, still to this day, incredibly talented. And, but I just love being in a band, It was good we got the girls that way.
That's why I started in television.
It's for the girls.
In typing class.
That's it.
Typing. Rob too.
Yeah,
Took typing.
I wasn't typing.
It's right. Well, so he said,
You've still got the rock star hair a little bit there, too.
This is the COVID cut.
okay, next question I will ask. What's the one food you could not give up in your life?
Chocolate.
Chocolate.
Oh,
Yeah, chocolate is good. I like chocolate. I like that answer. I go along
so
with
there's
it.
chocolate in your house on a regular
Always.
basis?
Always?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'll be knocking on the door then.
Yeah.
Always. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And in our office. So,
Remember, we had
Michael, you've been
samples.
to the office, so you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of refreshments
And energy
in your
drinks.
place.
But, so I'm a big Kit Kat person. I love Kit Kat.
Oh,
right?
Rob too.
Yeah, I love Kit Kat. But I found out that Kit Kats taste differently in Europe than they do here.
And different in the U.S.
And different in the U.S.
Yes.
We went to Hershey, bought Kit Kat there, different than we get in Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the distribution the ownership is there, or distribution is different in
Yeah.
Canada and the U.S.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
Well, I didn't know that, so now I know.
Okay, the next one is,
Ooh, this is a good one.
this is a good one. What would you say is your hidden talent? A talent that people may not be aware that you're quite good at. The guitar thing's already out there now. Rob. You have
Yeah,
another
and
one?
the hockey player is out
And the hockey
there,
player.
I think it's the love in my heart for people.
Okay,
So I don't know if that's a talent,
Sure.
but it's
Sure it is.
certainly
absolutely. There's no wrong answer.
of who I am here.
No,
yeah,
that's
so,
a talent. Not many people have that, right?
It is.
I have a love for people. And,
Wendy?
I don't know. I think Rob would say I'm just really good at multitasking. I just can do a zillion things at once. And
Right, okay.
Now, what would you say Rob's talent is? Hidden talent is?
I think that depth of thought is his.
Yeah?
Yeah, for sure.
And you, but Wendy?
I think Wendy is capable of seeing things at a level that I sometimes can't see them.
Right.
And she talks about depth of thought, and I talk about outside of my sphere thought. It's
Right.
kind of she has
The
a very
breadth
different.
of thought, yeah.
Yeah, and it allows me to think.
Right.
So
The big
Yeah.
picture. I'm good at macro. I really love macroeconomics.
You see the forest.
Yeah.
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 I like to see the forest, but I'm really detailed, so that's a bit of a difference.
Yeah. For sure.
More detail.
For sure.
I have no detail at all.
No detail.
No detail. I'm a big
Really?
picture guy.
Yeah,
I'm not a detail person. That's why.
I feel like a camera. Like I start out here and I go down like this always, right?
I have sense, but I think, I'm trying to get people to land on icebergs, for example, on my TV show, but no one did that. Okay, here it is. Last one.
Last one.
We'll start with Wendy first.
Okay.
Your go-to karaoke song.
Oh, I gotta tell you, I'm the worst singer.
This karaoke doesn't have to be a good singer.
You're up on stage, you've got a microphone, somebody says, what
You've had
song
a
do
few
you want to sing
tequilas,
to?
whatever it is that you drink.
I don't even know. Let me think.
Celine Dion, Titanic. No, it's
No.
Maybe Journey, I'm thinking. Something.
No, I don't know.
Prince. No. Rihanna.
I don't know. I don't know. Help.
Well, mine, and you like it, and that's Gary and the Pacemakers, Don't Let the Sun Catch You Crying.
Oh, right.
And the Beatles, and I Love Her. So
Right.
when I play that for Wendy on the guitar, she likes those too.
There you go.
Do you do vocals in your band?
I did, harmony. Yeah, and it's got to be a real good microphone with good, so it kind of.
Yeah.
It's
Good
not my real
studio
voice.
adjustments.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good sound effects.
Filters or something.
Wow, excellent.
Yeah, that's very
great.
good. So that's thank you very much. I do have one more question. Sorry, you guys work 24/7 business. What do you do outside of business for fun?
Yeah, I think it's a fallacy. So our businesses, some of them are open 24/7. We definitely don't work 24/7, though in my mind, because it's not about work. I think I need to kind of put that out there. For me, what I do is not work at all. It really is a passion. It really is what I love to do.
It's not a chore.
It's not at all. I can't wait to get up in the morning. I love to create. I love a little stress. I have to worry about something because I got to fix it. And so all of these things are very wonderful for me. And whatever it takes to do the job, I do. We have some amazing people on our team. Without these people, we might be the voice and face in front of you today, but we really have a team that's so outstanding. I'm so proud of. And, as we move on, Wendy and I are little by little passing on more of that torch. So that 24/7 idea of being a convenience store business, yes, many stores do operate those hours, but we've got it down to, good working hours, and we're able to, Wendy, I can share. Wendy tonight is going out with friends and going up to a cottage, and she won't back till midday tomorrow. So we're able to do all of these things,
Right.
And thankfully the business allows us to do that.
But only because your hard work putting it in. You put
Yeah,
it in,
I mean,
right?
we still work hard.
For sure.
Yeah, we still work hard, and I think my mind works 24/7, but it's not work. It's kind of what I love.
Right.
So
It's interesting because as successful as both of you are, you always talk about teams, which is good, which is fantastic, right? Many business owners don't do that, right? They talk about I and that, but so this is probably the success of your careers in life and all that, right?
we have an outstanding, and I mean that, we have the most outstanding team. Most of the time they don't need us. We'd like to be loved, so we get involved, but
They do it better than we do.
they do in their
do.
areas of absolutely,
absolutely.
They've learned their area of business better than we would know their
Well,
area.
the people that are less successful are the ones that try to hold on to things and not share and give to others and create the team.
Oh,
It's the opposite
It's
that makes you
true.
successful.
It's because it's all about figuring it out. Once you figure it out, it's okay, now I'm going to show you what I figured out.
Right.
It's all you. Now I'm going to go figure out something else.
Exactly,
And then, there's that constant sharing. And
they take ownership. I mean, even our store managers talk about my store. They call it my store.
Nice.
So, I mean, that's music to our ears. We want people to take ownership. We want them to grow. We want them to prosper. Their families are important to us. And so all of that, it's family. Yeah. It really is family. Right. And so that's success is really the people of the organization.
That's your hidden talent. Great.
Thank you.
It is.
Well, I could talk to you guys all day. I really
Yes.
could. We're running out of hard drive space. But I could talk, interesting conversation for sure.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank
for
you.
being
Thank you
here
for
and
the
sharing.
opportunity.
And hopefully out there you enjoyed the show. And if you need more information, go to lifestoriesmarkham.ca. Lots of information there. Our email addresses are there. Come and join us. Send us information. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, and if you have other ideas or other people you want us to hear about, their life story, let us know.
Absolutely. It's all there.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.